October 23rd, 1907, New York City, 10:47 a.m. The line stretched around the block, not outside a theater, not outside a baseball stadium, outside a bank. Knickerbocker Trust, one of the most prestigious financial institutions in New York City. And by 10:47 in the morning on October 23rd, 1907, people were standing in the cold, desperate, trying to get their money out before it disappeared forever. The panic of 1907 had arrived. Stock markets had collapsed. Banks were failing like dominoes. The U.S. Treasury had no Federal Reserve, no bailout mechanism, no safety net. There was no system built to stop it. Except one man. 70 years old, enormous white mustache, eyes that people said could freeze you across a room. He hadn't asked for this job. He'd simply decided it was his. John Pierpont Morgan locked a room full of America's most powerful bankers inside his private library, and he didn't let them out until they had agreed to save the country. He didn't hold a government office. He didn't ask for permission. He just acted. Because in 1907, J.P. Morgan wasn't merely a banker. He was the American economy. And this moment, this rescue, was the most public expression of something he'd been building for 50 years. This is the story of how one man accumulated so much power that he could own a crisis, and how the world finally decided it couldn't let one man own that much ever again.
Hartford, Connecticut, 1837. John Pierpont Morgan was born on April 17, 1837. The son, Junius Spencer Morgan, a wealthy merchant banker who would later run one of the most powerful banking houses in London. J.P. was not a self-made man, let's be clear about that. He didn't rise from poverty, he rose from privilege and turned it into something that made his father's wealth look like pocket change. But the early years were not easy. As a teenager, Morgan contracted inflammatory rheumatism so severe it left him unable to walk for months. He was sent to recover in the Azores, alone, away from school, away from family, away from everything normal boys his age were doing. He came back harder. He studied in Germany, learned currency, learned arbitrage, learned that money at its core was simply information, and the man with the best information always won. At 20, he joined a New York firm as an unsalaried accountant. Within a year, he'd pulled off his first unauthorized deal, buying a cargo of coffee on a hunch without permission and turning a profit. His boss was furious. Morgan was unconcerned. He had found his method. Act first, ask forgiveness never. The Civil War made him. Not because he fought, he didn't. He paid a substitute $300 to go in his place, which was entirely legal and entirely common among wealthy men. While others bled at Gettysburg, Morgan was in New York, learning to navigate a world where information was a weapon. By 30, he was well connected. By 40, he was dangerous. By 50, he was the man banks called when they couldn't solve their own problems. He had one rule, spoken or unspoken: never compete, consolidate.
Wall Street, 1880s to 1900s. This word was coined by his enemies. He adopted it like a badge. The railroads came first. By the 1880s, American railroads were a disaster, overbuilt, competing insanely, driving each other to bankruptcy and dragging investors down with them. Morgan stepped in, not to save the companies, but to rationalize them. He bought, merged, restructured. He installed his own men on boards. He set prices. He eliminated redundancy. He reorganized over a third of all American railway mileage. Then came General Electric. In 1892, Morgan merged Edison General Electric with Thomson Houston. Thomas Edison lost control of his own company. Morgan renamed it. Today, it's simply GE. Edison was furious. Morgan was finished with the conversation. But the crown jewel, the move that made everything else look like a warm-up, came in 1901. U.S. Steel. Morgan bought Carnegie Steel from Andrew Carnegie for $480 million. Then he merged it with other steel companies to create U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation in American history. At its peak,
It controlled 67% of U.S. steel production. $480 million in 1901. That's roughly $17 billion today. Carnegie, for his part, said he should have asked for $100 million more. Morgan reportedly told him, "If you had, I would have paid it." This was his genius. Not invention, not risk, synthesis. He looked at chaotic industries and saw the chessboard 3 moves ahead. He didn't build companies, he built architectures. And he built them so that they couldn't survive without him.
23 Wall Street, his kingdom. Imagine being invited to dinner with J.P. Morgan. You arrive at his brownstone on Madison Avenue. You are announced. You wait. He enters, barrel-chested, white-whiskered, that nose. The nose was a medical condition, rhinophyma, a form of rosacea that left it bulbous and purple-red. Children reportedly ran from him in the street. He never mentioned it. He never explained it. He simply dared you with his eyes to bring it up. He collected art the way other men collected stamps. He bought entire collections in an afternoon. Rembrandt, Vermeer, Egyptian antiquities, medieval manuscripts. He once bought a collection of jeweled watches at a Parisian auction simply because he was bored and felt like it. The total? Roughly $1 million. He didn't ask the price until it was over. He owned a yacht called the Corsair, then a bigger one also called the Corsair, then a third, 302 feet long, the largest private vessel in American waters. He once said, "If you have to ask the price, you can't afford it." He said a lot of things that became famous, mostly because they were delivered without a flicker of irony. He was married twice. His first wife, Amelia, died of tuberculosis 4 months after their wedding. He never fully recovered. His second marriage to Frances Tracy was cordial but distant. His real intimacy was with his work and with a rotating circle of female friends, artists, and socialites who accompanied him on European trips his wife declined to take. He was not admirable in every way. He was a man of his era, wielding power the way powerful men did, without asking, without apologizing. But he also understood something most men with power didn't. The system needed to function. And if the system didn't function, even the most powerful man in it had nothing. That's what made him different. Not greed, architecture. October-November 1907. The Morgan Library, 36th Street, Manhattan. Back to the panic. By late October 1907, the situation was catastrophic. The Knickerbocker Trust had already collapsed. The Trust Company of America was next. The New York Stock Exchange had nearly halted trading. City governments couldn't issue bonds. Copper magnate F. Augustus Hines had tried to corner the copper market, failed spectacularly, and taken half the banking system down with him. The U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, George Cortelyou, came to New York personally. He deposited $25 million of federal funds into banks. It wasn't enough. He called Morgan. Morgan, 70 years old, set up command in his library, a Renaissance palazzo attached to his home, filled with illuminated manuscripts in Florentine bronzes. He organized a team of financial experts to audit failing institutions overnight. He decided which ones were worth saving and which ones he would let collapse. Those he let collapse, collapsed. Those he chose to save, he summoned their leaders and told them, with no ceremony, what they would contribute to a collective rescue fund. He assigned numbers. There was no negotiation. On November 2nd, he locked the doors. The city's most powerful trust company presidents were assembled in his library. They needed to raise $25 million by morning to stop the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange's brokerage firms. Morgan held the key. Literally, the doors were locked. At 4:45 a.m., they signed. The panic of 1907 ended. Not because of government intervention, not because of new law or regulation, because one man decided it would.
This was the moment that saved him and destroyed him. Washington, D.C., 1912. The thing about saving a country is that afterwards people want to know how you had the power to do it in the first place. In 1912, the House of Representatives convened the Peugeot Committee, named for Louisiana Congressman Arsène Peugeot, to investigate what they called the Money Trust. The question was simple and devastating. Had a small group of Wall Street bankers accumulated so much control over American credit that they effectively ran the economy without democratic accountability? The answer, everyone suspected, was yes. Morgan was summoned to testify. He was 75 years old, unwell, but he appeared and faced attorney Samuel Untermeyer across the chamber in a confrontation that became legend. Untermeyer pressed him, "Doesn't controlling so much capital give you enormous power over American business?" Morgan's answer was extraordinary. He said, "I do not think I have any power to speak of." He said that commercial credit was based on character, not money, that he had, throughout his career, simply trusted the right men. Untermeyer pushed, "Is not commercial credit based primarily upon money or property?" Morgan replied, "No, sir. The first thing is character." Untermeyer, disbelieving, "Before money?" Morgan, without hesitating, "Before money, anything else. Because a man I do not trust could not get money from me on all the bonds in Christendom." The room was silent. He was either the most principled man in America or the most gifted liar, perhaps both. The Peugeot hearings concluded that yes, there was a money trust. Morgan's network of directorships, he and his partners held 72 board seats across 47 major corporations, was unprecedented in scope. The hearings helped pave the way for the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, a central bank, a government-run institution that would do what Morgan had done privately, but permanently, accountably, and not at the discretion of one man's judgment. Morgan did not live to see it fully enacted. The stress of the hearings, the weeks of testimony, the exposure, the scrutiny, broke him. He left for Rome to recover. He deteriorated rapidly. On March 31, 1913, J.P. Morgan died in his suite at the Grand Hotel in Rome. He was 75. His estate was valued at $68 million. John D. Rockefeller, upon hearing this, reportedly said, "And to think he wasn't even a rich man."
America, then, now, always. When Morgan died, newspapers across America ran banner headlines. The stock market dipped, because even his death was a financial event. The Federal Reserve was signed into law 9 months later, in December 1913. The institution designed specifically to ensure that no private citizen could ever again hold the power Morgan had held. It would be the lender of last resort, not a man in a library with a locked door. The irony writes itself. The Panic of 1907 proved the country needed a central bank. Morgan's power proved it couldn't be a person. His legacy built the very institution designed to replace him. J.P. Morgan Chase, the bank that carries his name today, is the largest bank in America by assets, over $3.7 trillion. It has weathered every financial crisis of the modern era. In 2008, it absorbed Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual as they failed, playing, in its own way, the role its namesake once played. You can argue about whether Morgan was a visionary or a monopolist, a patriot or a predator. The historical record holds both comfortably. What you cannot argue is his scale. He didn't just participate in the American economy. For a stretch of decades, he was its operating system, its immune response, its last line of defense. One man, 75 years old, a locked door, a pen. On the morning of October 23, 1907, the line outside Knickerbocker Trust stretched around the block. People were terrified. The system was failing. There was no institution to catch them. There was only a man in a library sitting in a leather chair deciding who would survive. He made his choices. He unlocked the door, and the panic somehow stopped. America built the Federal Reserve so it would never need him again. It named the biggest bank in the country after him anyway.